All right, let me talk about this. So, here's the thing, dude. The job that I had at Belmont that I quit, that wasn't even the best job I ever quit. And that was a good job. That was a good, safe, secure job. Um, I didn't mind the work. I was doing maintenance at the horse track at Belmont. I liked everyone I worked with. I liked all my bosses. It was a union job. The hardest part of my job at Belmont was showing up. The hardest part was waking up and dragging my ass in there. Once I was in there, it was easy. It was a union job. So they can't just fire you. You know what I mean? You gotta really, you gotta really try to get fired. I kind of got fired. But, you know, we literally at Belmont, every hour we would take about a half hour break. We were supposed to take a 15-minute break, but we would, we'd stretch it out. So we'd get there in the morning, we would all chill, and then we would do an hour of work, which really we would just get set up. They would tell us what we were going to be doing. We would break up into our little crews who we were working with. And then we would go to wherever we were working. We'd set everything up, and it was break time. And then we would usually go get breakfast. But here's the thing. Here's another problem I had. The two places to eat inside Belmont. Now, Belmont's huge. Belmont Park, you could look at it on Google Maps. It's huge. It's the horse track. There's also a practice track. There's a bunch of barns. And there's two places to eat there. There's like a cafeteria type thing, and then there's like this little kind of, I guess you could call it like a little restaurant, little cafe. But they're both on the grounds of Belmont, and now Belmont's been there for a long time. I don't remember exactly how long, but by the time I was working there, the same guy owned both of the cafes in there. He owned the cafeteria. It's weird, dude. Once you, it's all bureaucracy and bullshit. This guy who owned these two places to eat in Belmont, he must have greased some wheels somewhere and hooked up with someone or something. I don't know exactly how it works, but this guy who didn't work for Belmont owned these two places to eat in there. And it was a funny thing, dude. When I went in there and I first got the job, I was like, oh, this is fucking cool. I don't even have to leave here to eat. And they've got all kinds of food here. I mean, a variety, all kinds of food. Pretty much whatever you would want. But the first time I ate there, everything looked good. Everything smelled good. It wasn't like school food. You know what I mean? It was like, I can't even remember what exactly was in there now, but I remember there's just like a huge variety of things, steak and chicken and whatever. And the first time I ate it, I was like, it looks good and it smells good, but something ain't right with it. And I don't know what it is, but something ain't right with this food. I don't know. But no one else seemed to pick up on it. I would even say to people, do you think this food's good? They're like, yeah, it's good. I'm like, I don't think it's good. They're like, what do you mean? Like, I couldn't explain it, but something was off with the food. And so then I'm like, all right, let me try the other little cafe here. It can't be as bad as that shit. And I couldn't tell you what was wrong with the food. It tasted very bland. Now in hindsight, I think that it's all just factory farmed, low vibration. They're getting it just the cheapest, shittiest, most abused animals in the most cheapest, horrible factory farms. So anyways, I'm like, all right, so we go to breakfast and we go to the little cafe. I get a bacon, egg, and cheese. How do you fuck that up? You can't fuck it up. I get it. And it just something ain't right with it, And so I ended up working at Belmont for maybe about a year. And I was eating a lot of this food. And it's weird because, it was so strange. I would look forward to breakfast so much. And then I'd get this bacon, egg, and cheese, and I'd be disappointed by it every time. But I was the only one who really thought something was wrong with it. It's like, it didn't taste like, it tasted like fucking air or something. It tasted like nothing. It was like synthetic. I don't know how to explain it. But, I started getting to the point where I was like, at lunchtime, I'm going across the street to the deli. There was a really good deli across from Belmont. And I'm like, dude, I'm back living in New York. I'm not eating shit food. One of the upsides to living in a place like New York, Long Island, is the food, dude. There's just good food everywhere. In New York City and Long Island, lots of good food. And I'm gonna spend the rest of my life eating this cheap garbage? Like, nah, dude, fuck that. So at lunch, I'd run across the street to the deli, and I'd get like chicken cutlets and rice and beans, and but I didn't really have enough time. It was only a half-hour lunch, and I didn't really have time. So I was like, dude, that was one of the reasons I quit the job. I'm like, I'm not gonna spend the rest of my life eating this trash food. And then another funny thing, while I was working there, some of the older guys were missing a lot of work because they were getting like cancer and stuff. And I was thinking to myself, it might have something to do with this food that they're eating 24/7. I mean, here's the thing about a job. When you got a job, you got to realize, dude, you're going to be spending a lot of time there. So I was like, are you going to spend the rest of your life eating this fucking this unhealthy trash food? And it was one of the reasons I quit the job. That's kind of a side story. That doesn't have anything to do with what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about here is and then Belmont wasn't even, I quit a better job after that. But here's the thing. Here's what I want to talk about. You can't spend your whole life at a job that you fucking hate. You can, but you don't have to. I know, here's the thing, they teach us, we're trained, we're brainwashed into thinking that's normal. That ain't normal, dude. It is absolutely not normal. Look at, and, not to be sexist or whatever, but guys in the modern West are getting fucked harder than anyone. So, because I see these TikToks and stuff, or not TikTok, I see it on Instagram. I don't really have a TikTok. But you'll see these, like, executive chicks, they go into the office and they go get coffee. They don't do anything all day, really. And some of them are working in, like, Washington, D.C. and the government. It's like, it's daycare for adult women, when really, I think its main purpose is to keep women from having kids. They're trying to turn the whole world into a third world shithole, and one of the ways they can do that is by preventing Western women from having families. Well, why do you think all this degeneracy and bullshit is shoved down your throat 24/7? But that's beside the point. So anyways, there's a lot of people out there, and women too, but there's a lot of guys out there trying to force themselves to do jobs they hate. And so, I had to face a hard truth when I was younger and I was working at that telemarketing place. And that hard truth was, I can't do this for the rest of my life. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I can't do this. And it's a funny thing. When I was younger, I had no confidence. I had no self-esteem. I didn't think I could do anything. When I started doing the landscaping and shit, I didn't know if I was capable. I didn't know. As it turned out, I was capable. But then after that, after the a bunch of hurricanes came through, took us out of business, I couldn't lay sod no more. I was like, I can't go back to working in some office. I can't do that. I like working outside. The thing with working outside is it's not like when you're working in an office, it's like being babysat. If I go outside to smoke a cigarette, sometimes they're going to say something like, oh, you take too many breaks or something. Like, I'm a grown adult, bro. Don't, like, that's unacceptable to me. You know what I mean? I'm not living the rest of my life that way. But so once I started working in, like, the sod, laying sod, I didn't have no babysitter. My boss respected me. My boss liked me. My boss tried to keep me happy because he wanted me to keep showing up to work every day. You know what I mean? It was a whole different thing. All of a sudden, instead of being this worthless nobody who they could fire in a heartbeat. All of a sudden, I'm valuable. My boss, wants to get along with me. He's not going to act like a piece of shit because he respected me. He wanted me to stay working for him. So my boss was cool to me, And it was, if I wanted to smoke a cigarette, my boss didn't give a fuck. If I wanted to stop for breakfast in the morning, sometimes my boss would just buy us breakfast. He was like, he liked us. He wanted to keep us working for him. It was a whole different scene. It was like working for him was almost like not even working compared to what I had been doing my whole life previous, So, but then when I lost the job with the laying sod, I was like, what am I going to do? I don't know what to do. And I was thinking maybe I should do construction, but I was so unconfident and had such low self-esteem. I was like, I don't know if I can do that. I was like scared, but I ended up doing it. I was like, well, you got to try. What else are you going to do? You going to go telemarket? I couldn't do it no more. So there goes a van lifer with a surfboard on his roof. I mean, a surfboard's not going to do you a whole lot of good on the west coast of Florida. The waves out here in the Gulf are like small. Unless there's a hurricane coming, then the waves get big. But as far as surfing in Florida, that's a East Coast thing. West Coast of Florida, I mean, there's people that surf, but they go to the East Coast. They drive over to the other side of Florida to surf usually. It's something I've never done. I'd like to do it. Actually, I did in Daytona. I wasn't very good at it, but anyway, so, but it is something I do want to try to learn and get good at. But what the fuck was I talking about? I have no idea what the fuck I was just talking about. Wait. Oh yeah, so I had like no confidence, you know what I mean? And I didn't know if I could do construction. Then I get to doing construction. I realize, what the fuck were you so afraid? How could you think you couldn't do this? It's weird, man. This, I try to stay out of the politics on my channel because I don't want to alienate people. I'm here to help whoever wants help. I'm good, I have nothing against anyone. I'm cool. I'm cool with anyone who wants to be cool, So, but I feel that in the modern Western world, there's a lot of things happening that take the confidence of white dudes. We're raised in a society where they're telling us like, first of all, they blame you for slavery and all that, and I'm not saying it's institutional. They teach us that in school. They're institutionally taking your self-esteem and your confidence in a million different ways. Public school, for the most part, it seems to me, its main purpose is to take away your self-esteem, your confidence, and to crush you down into another wage slave drone who is going to take whatever shit job they can get and just cling to it for the rest of their lives. That's what public school is churning out. And it's done on purpose. And it's a million other things. When I was younger, they used to tell us, black people are stronger. And another thing, black people have huge dicks. It's like, what the fuck kind of weird-ass society raises its people and tells them this type of weird-ass shit? And on average, it's really not even true. I don't know. I'm not out there inspecting everyone's dicks. But I've been with a few girls. Anyways. Let me get back to... let's just put it to you. I'll put it to you this way. I grew up thinking I was a mosquito. As it turns out, anyways, fucking, it's all bullshit is my point. Physically, I've gotten into it with people of other races and shit. They're not stronger than me. You know what I mean? It's like, it's all this bullshit they teach us, and that's just I'm barely scratching the fucking surface here. It's off the top of my head. If I sat here thinking about it, I could write a list of things. And another thing, I'm not blaming black people for it. Black people aren't the ones pushing all this propaganda, creating it. They're not the ones writing the curriculum for the schools. Here's the thing. I feel that black people are being manipulated and brainwashed in a totally different direction. The propaganda machine is trying to turn them all into, like, criminal thugs who want to go to jail. It's all fucking... People don't realize how powerful propaganda is, dude. But let me tell you something. It's rare for a person to really be themselves. And you can't blame them with all the influence out here, but there's a lot of people out there who they're not being their natural self. They're being what, the music and the TV and the school, it shaped them into something that they really aren't. You know what I mean? But so anyways, let me get back to my point of this video. The point of this video is you don't have to do a job you hate. Now I consider it. Here's the thing. I consider that I escaped the Matrix. Now, what does that mean? That means that I don't have to do anything I don't want to do. I don't have to lie. I don't have to cheat. I don't have to steal. I don't have to go answer to anyone else and, oh, I need a job. Let me write this resume full of lies. And, I don't have to do none of that. You know what I mean? And if it was up to me, nobody would have to do any of that. I honestly believe that if you gave me a couple of 100 or 1,000 acres and give me a bunch of people, I will create a totally functional society where everyone is happy and everyone is rich. And I mean that. People don't realize it actually takes effort to screw things up to this point. It takes effort. This didn't happen naturally. It didn't happen on accident. It's done very intentionally, and it's actually, they have to waste so much resources, in order to get us to this point. They need money to be scarce. If money's not scarce, then they can't hire half the population to police, the other half. They hire all these cops who, look, in England, the cops are like, in my opinion, they have completely betrayed their people in England. It's not even as bad in America. Not even close. I mean, I dealt with a cop the other day, and I gotta say, I liked him. I'm sleeping in my car. Sometimes I interact with the cops. This cop was nothing but cool and respectful, and, he's like, well, he's like, you seem like you got a real professional setup and shit, but he's like, it's, you can't sleep in your car in Clearwater. I was like, all right, He's like, and I'm not saying you're a problem because I can tell you're not. He's like, your shit's super clean. It's nice. You built it out nice. He's like, just keep a low profile, man. He's like, he's like, they called me out here for there's where I stay. There's a lot of crazy shit happening. There's a lot of homeless people around, but that's why I stay over there, because I don't get fucked with over there. But every once in a while they go a little too wild and the cops come out. And so I ended up interacting with this cop, and he was basically saying, like, I understand you're not the problem, bro. He's like, but, I had to say something to you because you're sleeping in your car. I was like, dude, it's no problem, and I appreciate you being cool about it. He's like, yeah, just keep a low profile. And I was like, all right. But so what I see in England with the cops is, they're cracking down on the far right protests. Is it really far right to not want your entire country and culture to be flushed down the toilet and turned into Bangladesh? Is that far right? If it is, I'm fucking far right. I'm further right than that. That's left in my world. I'm fucking all the way on the right, bro. But so, if they didn't manufacture this completely insane upside down society, which is wasting billions and trillions of dollars in resources, they do that on purpose, because if money wasn't scarce, they wouldn't be able to hire people to do all this bullshit. If you really think about it, the police, in a lot of ways, they're betraying us all. They come from us. They come from the working class. Their job, for the most part, on paper, it's to protect and serve. In reality, what they end up doing is stealing money from the working class and giving it to the the rich. Basically, they're giving it to the government. And that's another thing that blows my mind. People are always like, "Oh, tax the rich." Dude, giving the government more money is not the fucking answer. I'm not saying I care about the rich and I don't want them to be taxed, but that tax money doesn't go to us. It goes to the fucking government. And what does the government do with it? They drop $100,000 bombs on $5 tents in the middle of the fucking Middle East. So it's like, but so anyways, they waste all this money on purpose because it creates a slave class where they can hire you to be the police. They can hire you to do fucking anything. And so, but you don't have to play along with it. Now, here's the thing, I wish I could give you exact instructions on how to escape the Matrix, but this is why it's tricky. It's different for everyone. You know what I mean? So what I had to do to escape the Matrix might not be what you have to do. And in fact, 9 times out of 10, what I did probably wouldn't work for you. But I was so determined to break out of that Matrix that, here's the thing, I was willing to die. I was willing to lose everything. No problem. I'd rather be dead than live the life of what I consider to be a slave. And it makes me think that even back in the day, if I was enslaved by someone, I truly believe that I either would have escaped or I would have took his life from him, because I'm so against it. I'm so against answering to people that I don't want to answer to. And so, now the really good job that I quit, and people don't get it. People, my buddy that got me the job couldn't believe that I quit it, but I'm gonna explain it right now. So, a buddy of mine got me the best job I ever had at Tavern on the Green, which is it's a pretty famous place in New York. He got me. Now my buddy was a DJ, and so he's kind of connected in the music world in New York, I guess you could say. And so one of his jobs was, he's the audio engineer at Tavern on the Green, where he was working for some other company. But so every time there was live music at Tavern on the Green, which is at least every weekend. I'm not sure if they do it during the week. But so his job is to go in before the band, set up all their instruments, set up all the volumes on the amps and everything. And then the band would come in and check everything and tell him if they wanted anything changed. And so my buddy got me a job doing that. And this is a really good fucking job. It's like an audio engineer or something. And people get paid a lot of money to do it. And so he gets me a job doing it. And I was like, oh my God, this is like, dude, it's a fucking really good job. But the problem was, it took me off my path and put me back in the Matrix. I'm speaking in retrospect. All these things were happening subconsciously in my mind at the time. And at the time, this must have been around 2016, 2017. So he gets me this job at Tavern on the Green. At first, I'm just his helper. But then he gets it to the point where I can go do it on my own, where I'd be getting paid like $500 a day to do this, which is, I was doing portraits in Central Park. That was my main source of income at the time. It was probably better money than the portraits, but the problem is now I'm working for someone else. I'm kind of back in the Matrix. If they call me up and they need me to work, I gotta work. And the other problem is, I was trying to get off heroin at the time, so I was doing Suboxone. I was going back and forth between Suboxone and heroin. The problem was, this job, I'd be sitting there for 9 hours all day, pretty bored. Once you set it up, the band plays all day, and I just sit there with a laptop in front of me, and after the end of the day, I'd wrap everything up and pack everything up and put it back in the trailer outside. So it's like a long day. It's a 9-hour day, but for the most part, you ain't doing nothing. Lots of hot girls at Tavern on the Green too. You're looking at hot girls all day, which is fine. But my problem was I couldn't do it without getting heroin. All of a sudden, if I got heroin, I'm chilling. This is great. I'm chilling at Tavern on the Green, sitting outside, taking my little bump every couple half hour or so, and I'm in a great fucking mood, chilling on my phone, bullshitting. It's great. But I was thinking to myself, if I need to be on drugs to do the job, I can't do that. I can't do that. The job would have solved all my problems. I would have been a lot of money coming in, $500 a day. I would have been able to get an apartment. And the other thing is, if I stayed working there, they would have started putting me out on other jobs. I would have been making a lot of money to basically chill on my phone all day. And but I knew where it was leading. If I was going to work without heroin, I was miserable. If I was going to work with heroin, I was on top of the fucking world. And I knew where that was heading. And so I quit the job. And my buddy couldn't believe it. He's like, "What, are you fucking retarded?" He's like, "I just got you one of the best jobs you could have in one of the best places in the world, New York City." He's like, "What the fuck?" He was pissed. But, here's the thing. It wasn't my path, dude. Once I made that decision to break out of the Matrix, man, this video went fast. God, the Force, the Tao, I don't know what to call it God. Once I made the decision to break out of the Matrix, God said, "You made the decision, and now you're not going to be... You're going to have to work very hard to reinsert yourself if you want, because you made the decision, and I'm not going to make it easy for you to quit. I want you to follow this through. I want you to see it through. I want you to fully escape." And so, from a normal person's perspective, you'd think I was a complete fucking idiot. You're going to quit that job and go do art on the street and be homeless instead of having a high-paying, easy job with an apartment in New York. You can afford to party on the weekends. Your job, you're surrounded by hot girls at Tavern on the Green while you're working. It's like, what kind of fucking idiot would quit that job? But I'm telling you, it was the right move, because I would have been just back on heroin. And here's what would have happened. I'm somewhat psychic, I can tell you. But so, here's what would have happened. I would have ended up fully back on heroin. I would have made lots of money. I would have, as time went on, locked myself deeper, embedded myself deeper and deeper into the Matrix. I would have got an apartment. I would have had bills. I would have had responsibilities. I would have been locked in. The longer I stayed, and here's what would have ended up happening. Eventually, I would have quit it all because I knew it wasn't the path for me. And I would have been right back where I started right before the job, doing portraits in Central Park and homeless. So I was thinking to myself, you can take the job, you can spend the next 10 years doing it, living normal. Eventually, you're going to quit that job or you're going to get fired, and you're going to end up right back here, right where you are right now. You may as well skip this side quest and stick to your mission, which is escaping the Matrix, working for yourself. And it's, here's the thing. Your path is your path. And nobody can tell you, what you need to do. Deep down inside, you know exactly what you got to do. Whether you are able to face that truth or not, that's between you and God. But I was able to face those hard truths, and that's why I was willing to quit these easy jobs and take the hard paths, because I knew deep down the path that I need to take. And let me tell you something, when you're on the right path, you're going to know. First of all, you're going to just feel it deep inside. I'm in the right place. I'm doing the right thing. The other thing is, the world is going to like bend to your will, and synchronicities are going to happen, and you'll know, dude. You'll know when you're on the right track, because all of a sudden you're going to have better luck, and you'll just know. I knew at this time I had an apartment in the Bronx, but deep down in my heart I felt, you gotta quit this job, you gotta ditch this apartment, and you gotta go back out on the street and finish what you started. You gotta, and that's what I did. And so here I am nowadays, mentally and physically totally healthy, happy, happiest I've ever been in my life, and I'm still on my mission. I know the next step, and I know what I got to do. I got to quit smoking weed. It's not easy for me, because I've been chilling lately and smoking, but I know what I got to do, and eventually I'm going to do it. But so, how do you escape the matrix? You got to be able to listen to your heart, listen to your intuition, and know, you got to be able to admit that, even if it's telling you something that is harder, you got to bite the bullet. You got to do what it's telling you to do. You think I wanted to be out there telling jokes I wrote for $1 a piece? I didn't want to do that, but my heart was telling me, you're on the right path, dude. I know it sucks, but this is temporary. You're going to get through it, and on the other side of it is freedom. So you can keep running back to your cage and hiding, and or you can stay out here and deal with the difficulties and keep pushing. If you're going through hell, keep going. And so everyone knows deep down what they got to do. You got to be able to, here's the other thing. There's a lot of people on a lot of prescription drugs. There's a lot of people self-medicating and this and that. I don't know for certain, but I can tell you this much. My intuition never really got my attention until I was fully sober. All of a sudden, there was something inside of me giving me directions. So, I'm not a doctor, and I don't know everything. So, but in my opinion, whatever you're on, if you want to get in touch with that frequency, with your intuition, and you want to get the instructions, I think you got to be 100% sober. I don't know. That's how it was for me. But even nowadays, now that I've been in touch with this intuition for so long, I'm smoking every day now. But my intuition stays in contact with me still. So even though I'm not 1,000% sober right now, my intuition is still telling me. And I think a lot of, whatever you're on, deep down whether or not it's agreeing with you or whether or not it's holding you back. So you got to be able to listen to your conscience, listen to your intuition. That's God speaking to you. You got to be able to listen to it, and you got to be able to, even if it's telling you things that you might have to, it might pull you off the easy path. Let me tell you something. In the long run, it's trying to put you where you belong. Where you want to wake up every day feeling good, or you want to wake up every day feeling like shit. You know what I mean? You got to listen to your intuition. You got to listen to your heart, listen to your conscience. Because I used to wake up every day feeling like shit. Now I wake up every day, I feel pretty fucking good. You know what I mean? So hopefully this video makes sense. I could keep going, but half-hour videos seem to be, the max. I to be honest, I'm trying to make shorter videos to have some variety. But anyways, that's it for this one. I appreciate y'all. Thanks for the subs. Thanks for the likes. Thanks for the tips. If you want a response to your comment, try to get it in the first 30 comments. That doesn't mean I won't respond. I respond to comments that are 2 years old sometimes. It's whatever pops up. You know what I mean? So, you know, it's not like I'm sitting here. It's not like I'm sitting here fucking, you know, just waiting for comments. But sometimes I'll go on my app and a comment will catch my eye. You know what I mean? But so, anyways, that's it for this one. I appreciate you. I'll see you on the next one. Everybody have a good one.